Kansas City Chiefs have 2 first-round picks. Traps, when you look at this team, what are their needs? What can they do with these picks? And don't mind me when I point out to you that I think the wide receiver need for the Chiefs is overrated.
Yeah, I was going to say that, or I guess something similar, and this is not the Buffalo area guy in me. I look at the Chiefs roster. It's got Patrick Mahomes. That matters more than anything else. Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy still there. I don't think the roster is really that good relative to the Chiefs being this, entrenched Super Bowl favorite or contender. I think they have needs at edge, definitely wide receiver, maybe not like they don't have to double up in the first round or pick 3 of them in this draft because you have Patrick Mahomes. The cornerback room is not very good. The safety position needs a lot of work. I could even say on the interior of the defensive line, beyond Chris Jones, they don't really have a lot of quality talent there. So Boye Mafe, Jaquan Brisker, the Penn State safety, Lewis Cine, the Georgia safety, any of the top tier cornerbacks. It's really like a team that has to address receiver eventually, but really needs to kind of piece together its defense that I think has played well when it's needed to in the playoffs over the last 2 or 3 postseasons. But losing Tyrann Mathieu, or I guess most likely losing Tyrann Mathieu, they've had some other players. Charvarius Ward.
He's done.
He's done. Yeah, he's done. They signed Justin Reed, but they lost Charvarius Ward. It's just not. If you look at the defensive roster, you're like, man, where's like the star talent on this defense? So edge rusher, corner, and safety, to me, are their biggest needs, and they will eventually, because they have the extra picks, address wide receiver day 2 or even early day 3.
I agree with everything that you just said. At the same time, the reason that they've been able to overcome maybe a less than stellar defense is because they've had this sensational offense. Yeah. And while they did add Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS from Green Bay, I still think they need a dynamic player at that position. So I look at Jahan Dotson from Penn State that could be an option for that team in the first round, because I don't think without making some moves that they're going to have a shot to get a Treylon Burks or Jameson Williams or one of those guys.
By the way, the buzz on Jameson Williams.
I told you, number 1 wide receiver is certainly in play.
I'm mad that I didn't get it. I got it at 5.5 to 1, I think.
Still good value.
Yeah, I think so too. But it was like,
I think it was 9 to 1 when we talked about it.
Yeah. And I wish I'd bet it then. It's like, I mean, I'm not, I'm not like between like what you hear and what you see other people are hearing as well. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people think he's going to be a top 10 pick, which is wild considering he's towards ACL like 2 months ago.
Yeah. If he didn't have the injury, he's a top 10 pick all day. He still might be in my top 10 overall, I think. But it's that injury that gives you a little reason for pause. I think he is the top wide receiver without a doubt if he did not have that injury. But as it stands today, it still would not surprise me if Garrett Wilson or Drake London were the first wide receiver. But I think the gap between those 2 players and the possibility of Williams being taken first is very narrow. So I would certainly take that value if you can still get it out there on the market. Back to Kansas City, like I said, I think they need some dynamic players at the position. You lose Tyreek Hill. You bring in MVS, and while I have talked about how, Tyreek Hill may not be as effective in Miami without Patrick Mahomes, MVS had Aaron Rodgers. It's not like he was playing with a slouch. So it's not reasonable to think that he's going to have this, drastic jump in production this coming year. Now, Juju, on the other hand, maybe you get a little bit more out of him considering where Ben was at this stage in his career. Or at that stage of his career now that he is retired. But,
that's right.
Josh. So you swing back to the idea of taking one of those top wide receivers. I also like edge rusher. They need cornerback help. They need linebacker. They could add another interior defensive lineman, everything that Trapp said. But when I look at this team, their offense has always been the calling card for this team. And I think they need another wide receiver to ensure that continues.
I don't disagree. Like, I think they will probably use one of the picks on a wide receiver. And if Andy Reid loves like a guy like Jameson Williams and believes that he can be the next, I don't want to say the next Tyreek Hill, but because I don't know that there's a next Tyreek Hill. But if he believes he could be a similar style, elite caliber player in this offense, it wouldn't surprise me if Andy Reid wanted to trade up and to go get him. And if you're offering 29 and 30 in this draft, there are going to be teams that are willing to give up, a pick in, or even if it's a second round pick, I think teams will be willing to move back. Like if you're the Carolina Panthers and the Chiefs say, hey, we'll give you 29 and 30 for 6. That's probably not a fair deal on the trade value chart, but you should take it. And you should move out of 6 and get down to 29 and 30. See if a quarterback falls and get another good player for a roster that is up and coming. I'm again trying to.
Yeah, if I'm Kansas City trying to swing a deal, and I'm a team that's rebuilding, I'm a team that's looking for additional draft capital that maybe I can use to move around in the future to get a quarterback myself, I would be more interested in a future pick from Kansas City. Give me number 29. Give me a future first-round draft pick, because number 30 overall, it can't get much worse. If it ends up being 31 or 32 next year, that's unfortunate, but I think you stand to gain a lot more if you acquire a future first-round pick from Kansas City. Yeah,
that's a great point. And again, like I think there's talk that Joe Shane, of the Giants wants to get out of this draft with using either 7 or 10, 5 or 7, probably 7, I think. Or is willing to use 7 to gain a future first-round pick. Move down, pick up a future first if anybody wants to come up. So if the Chiefs love someone that much, you could do 29 and, next year's first. And even without Tyreek Hill, I think you have to believe that pick at worst is like 25, right? I mean, you're going to get to it could backfire on you for sure. But I think it would at least consider it. On the other thing too, I think is worth mentioning, and I know I'm probably the idiot who's going to end up drafting him in fantasy drafts and looking like a fool 3 weeks into the season, but like Mecole Hardman is still a young player. Like Andy Reid used was it second or third? Was he a second or third round pick?
Second.
Third round pick?
Second.
Andy Reid used a second round pick on him. Like, we can complain about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mecole Hardman in the drafting all we want, but sometimes guys in Andy Reid's system take a couple of years to really get it down and to explode. And with no Tyreek Hill, it stands to reason that Mecole Hardman could see more action. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.